Delhi is like extremely known for its B.Tech program, like one of the best institutes in the world, and a lot more in India as well. But regarding masters and PhD, it's seen like at least from I'm an undergrad student, but even passing out like finishing B.Tech, you think of like going abroad for masters and PhD, and not thinking so much about doing it back in IIT or like even in Indian institutes. So like that is a challenge. I'm quite sure like the university feels as. So what like are the possible solutions that, in your opinion, are like practical enough to be implemented, and why is this even psychology even there in the first place?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. That's a question that has been very important for pretty much all IITs and all researchers in India, or most researchers in India in computer science at least. I think if you think about it, we need a very strong, well-oiled ecosystem to do research. There is so much that is going on all around you, and when you work on research, you are trying to innovate to a point where you develop something that nobody in the world knows about, and that is very hard to do for a beginning student. So therefore, you need to do it in conjunction with an advisor. And if you look at the, maybe let us just go back 20 years, I am told that the whole computer science department would have funding for one person to travel to some top conference and present their work. So we have started in a time where the journals would take 6 months to come to IIT, and the journal papers would have been submitted 1.5 years earlier than that, and then they finally get published. And so we get to know about information about research maybe 2 years after the research has already been done. So by the time we start thinking about how to innovate on top of it, those researchers have already gotten a head start and they are much ahead of us. So two things happened. Some of the best minds who used to do really exciting research in their PhD, when they moved back to India, they did not find the same amount of resources and information to be able to make significant inroads, and slowly their research started to fail or reduce in significance and impact. Some of us did succeed. Some of the best successes that came out of India happened in theory, because in computer science, because theory does not require lots of resources, and moreover you can work on 30-year-old problems and you can actually make impact. And this is what happened with, for example, Manindra Agarwal's prime sys P, the famous theorem, which was a 30-year-old problem, and he sort of cracked it sitting at IIT Kanpur with his undergrad students, or right, with his students in IIT. So, but that kind of research, it is very hard to do a lot of it. It is very hard to crack 30-year-old problems all the time. More often than not, you do research because you get to know of a very interesting idea and you start to develop it. Like suppose neural networks just happened, you want to suddenly start using it and have. So suppose when I start to use neural networks, now it is a very computation intensive model, right. So for that I need to buy resources, and for that I need to find funding, and this is not only true for me, it is also true for people in academia in the US and in England and elsewhere. But the speed at which I was able to find funding here was much less than the speed at which they are able to find funding and find resources and move, right. So it's a fast, there's a fast movers advantage that happens. So therefore it becomes somewhat difficult to be a sort of the top leader, thought leader of a field sitting in India, because a lot of innovation is happening in the US. Things have changed to a drastic level now, where we have lots of funding for travel. We also have information that comes out very quickly, like on archives, people even publish relatively less complete works, and so we get to know what is happening in the world very quickly. So now some of those challenges have gone away. Now it's the onus is on the younger faculty to make use of this opportunity and start doing high quality research, and things are changing. Again, as I said, if you go back 10 years, there were very few researchers which were publishing at the top level. Now we have 30 of those. I am sure 5 years down the line we will have 60 or something like that, and things will improve. Students will only come once you have excellent faculty members who are publishing at the right level and who are doing impactful work. Students will stay later, because it is not in their best interest to work with us in a system which is not the highest quality, except if they have some other constraints. So, sometimes we get really awesome students, but those students have some secondary constraint to stay in India, therefore, they come to us, and that is our privilege that we are able to advise them and therefore do really good work through them, but that is not the solution. The solution will only happen when slowly this thing evolves and we are in a much better place with respect to our research. And this is going to happen. The question is in how much time.